The Payment Services Directive 2 is a real positive piece of legislation. What it does do is it updates the existing framework of how payments operate across Europe. And this is a great thing for consumers. What PSD2 really does is it provides the consumer more choice. And this combined with the movement of technology, i.e. enabling consumers to be more effective in how they make those choices, as well as the framework that PSD2 brings, honestly, it's a really exciting time to be in the payments industry. Well, for Mastercard, we're at the center of electronic payments in Europe. So this is an exciting time for us to sort of play as a company, to work within the sector, the wider industry, and more importantly, to put the consumer at the center of all of this choice and this change around electronic payments. The two elements of PSD2 which I think are quite exciting for us here at Mastercard, and indeed the wider industry. The first one is around open banking, actually gaining access to the valuable information around a consumer's bank account that will lead to more products and services for consumers and create a competitive landscape, allowing consumers to have more choice. The second really interesting aspect of PSD2 is again around the consumer and protecting the consumer as they engage in electronic payments. So the very first aspect is authenticating who I am as a consumer. So in an instance, I have to do 2 of 3 ways in which I can authenticate myself. Of those 3 things, who am I? So a fingerprint, an iris scan. What do I have? A mobile phone, potentially a computer, a laptop. And then lastly, what do I know? A PIN or a password. So the second really interesting protection factor from PSD2 for consumers is this removal of surcharging. This will be quite powerful because what it allows is the consumer not to be discriminated against whether they use cash or card. A third aspect afforded to consumers through PSD2 is around reduced liability where there's been fraud on the account. Today, if I suffer a financial transaction that's fraudulent, I am liable for the first 150 euros of that transaction. Under PSD2, that gets capped at a level of 50 euros. That's a good step. However, if you did use your Mastercard card, you would essentially get 0 liability on that transaction. So I know what I would choose. What would you choose? Well, it's really important to remember that despite all these changes that PSD2 brings, the consumer is still going to feel comfortable with what they know. And what do they know around electronic payments? They know card-based payments. So whether I want to make a debit card transaction or a credit card transaction, I feel comfortable utilizing that as a way in which I interact and in which I pay the retailer. I don't think that's going to change and will continue to remain at the center of the payments landscape in Europe. At Mastercard, we are committed to giving the consumer the best checkout experience. PSD2 affords that to them, or we're going to deliver on that promise.